Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Scott here from CanGeek Games and Collectibles. Welcome to the CanGeek Games and Collectibles YouTube channel. I am joined today by Anthony, representing Token-Resistance.com, and Chris, representing us here at CanGeek Games and Collectibles. This is our next Fate Accelerated adventure, and I would like to welcome you all to the Shadows of the Village. First of all, let's give you the backstory. All right, so folks, your story begins on a quiet Saturday morning as two well-armed members of a private security team stand watch outside a luxury dwelling in Sydney, Australia. As these two individuals swap stories about their latest conquest and adventures, a single gunshot rings out from within the penthouse. As they storm the room, they find a body slumped over in a chair, that of their employer, Mr. Jakar Bal. The head of Ally Corp, the largest of the 7 megacorporations, securities investigation ultimately concludes that while connected to a data terminal, Bal took his own life. A conclusion supported by the security feeds within his penthouse. And although the facts seem to speak for themselves, his daughter, Samantha Bal, is less than willing to accept these findings. The eldest of Chikar Bal's children, Samantha Bal is the heir apparent to take control of Ally Corp, and she has vowed to uncover the truth behind her father's death. 2 weeks later, in a bar, a dive bar in Calgary, Alberta, the music is loud, the air is smoky, and the liquor is watered down. Two individuals have been requested to join Samantha Bal and her younger brother Julian in a informal off-the-books meeting at this bar. Those individuals would be one Mr. Edward Black, a specialist in, shall we say, wet work, handling himself, and a thief known as Mavis Theodore. You've both been instructed separately to arrive at this bar promptly for 8 p.m. that evening. As you enter the bar, as we've already said, the music is loud, the air is smoky, and this bar has a reputation for watering down their booze. You were instructed to head to the back of the bar, where there would be a table where you would meet Samantha Bal at. As you walk to the back of the bar, you see 4 obviously well-armed individuals flanking the sides of the table. Sitting at the table is a young woman of Asian origin and her brother. Samantha Bal presents herself as very professional, very distinguished looking. Her brother presents himself as an entitled playboy. Those are your impressions as you approach the table. Approach the table, folks.
Okay. I approach the table.
All right. So as you approach
So
the
do
table,
I.
so as the two of you approach the table, the
Okay.
two security standing on opposite sides of the table step in front of the two of you to build a wall between you and Julian and Samantha Bell. Who are you? What is your business here? Asks one of the guards.
We were
We were
requested to be
expected
here,
here. What's your
and
business?
if you don't move, we're going to leave.
From behind the wall of humanity, you hear a feminine voice say, "Oh, for God's sakes, Rufus, fuck off and get out of the way."
Yeah, Rufus, you heard her. Let's go.
The one guard, standing directly in the middle of the other three, kind of turns sideways, creating a very narrow pathway in which the two of you can squeeze through to get to this table. As you squeeze through...
I do not squeeze through.
Okay, you do not. Fair enough. So, you're standing on the other side? Fair enough.
I'm waiting for him to move.
All right.
If he doesn't move, I leave.
Well, he shows no signs of moving, and Samantha Bell stands up, pushes her chair back, looks directly at the two of you and says, "Now, Mr. Black and Miss Theodore, this is not a time for posturing. Rufus, move out of the way and allow them to come in. We have business to discuss." Rufus kind of lets out a sigh, turns to walk by the two of you, and kind of nudges you with his shoulder as he walks by you, Anthony. Just kind of, trying to exert a little bit of dominance.
If he does that, you know what's going to happen. I'm just going to nudge back and break his shoulder.
So, go for it. If you want to do it, by all means, do it. So, we're going to call this a forceful row, okay?
Okay.
Go for it.
I have subdermal armor.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know what this guy's thinking. Come on, roll. So, forceful 2 plus fair 2.
Okay. So, what are we saying your row was?
Forceful is 2 plus 2.
Okay. So, he grabs his shoulder in pain. You can see that he wasn't expecting that, and you hear him exclaim loudly, "Motherfucker!" Now, Bell at this point says, "For God's sakes, I don't have time for this, Rufus. Just get the fuck out of the way." Now, Rufus slumps to the side, so you both have a clear path to get in through the 3 remaining security guards. So,
Okay.
So
1, I don't trust Rufus, and 2, I don't trust her brother. Okay.
Fair enough.
Alright. Let's get that out of the way.
That's
All
fine.
right.
So, I assume you both go sit at the table now.
Sure.
Alright, so as you sit down, she says, "My apologies. We have business to discuss, but you'll have to bear with me for a few more moments." As she looks at her watch, she says, "The third person we are waiting for has yet to arrive." So she then turns around to look at her brother Julian, and she says, "Where the hell is Mora?" Julian looks at her and goes, "I don't know, sister. I don't know where Thomas is." "Well, for God's sakes, time is money, Julian. Find him now." Julian gets up. He walks away from the table. As he's leaving the table, he motions for one of the guards to come with him. About 30 minutes goes by. You can see that Samantha Bell is getting more and more agitated by this point. Finally, Julian comes back with the security guard that he had in tow with him, and he sits down and he says, "We can't find him." Samantha looks at Julian and she says, "Well, I can only forgive so many sins. We're going to terminate our contract with Thomas Mora this evening. Make it happen." Now, Mavis, I would like you to give me a clever roll, please.
Okay, what am I rolling for?
You'll find out in a minute.
Oh. Okay. Okay, so my clever is 2. I rolled a 1, so it's a 3.
Fantastic. As a thief, as someone who specializes in, shall we say, obtaining things that other people would prefer you not obtain, you will recognize the name Thomas Mora immediately. You recognized it the first time the name was dropped, okay?
Okay.
Thomas Mora is a renowned activist hacker. Now, Mora pulled off some of the biggest jobs in his late teens and early 20s, but although you never had the privilege of meeting him personally, the rumors you always heard about this guy is that he was sketchy at best. He had, shall we say, many addictions and vices that seem to have got him in trouble over the years. Now, a few years ago, Mora suddenly up and disappeared off the scene. And although nothing could ever truly be confirmed, there were always rumors that one of the 7 corps had finally got their hands on him and had probably buried him in a hole somewhere, never to be seen again. The fact that you have heard that Thomas Mora is supposed to be joining you this evening has now dispelled the beliefs that that individual was buried in a hole somewhere. So it's been about 30 minutes since you arrived. Samantha has sent Julian off to find Mora. He's come back empty-handed. Samantha is more and more agitated by this. She's finally had enough, and she's told Julian to sever her corpse contract with Thomas Mora. You will both understand immediately that this is politically correct speak for dispose of him once and for all. So now that you're sitting at the table, Samantha apologizes for the delay and waiting for Mora to arrive. And she says it's time for us to get down to business. She says, as the two of you may have heard, it's been all over the feeds over the last 2 weeks. My father has died. And while the popular belief is that he took his own life, I can assure you that Chakar Bal was an honorable man and would do no such thing. His death is suspicious at best, at least in my opinion. And at the end of the day, as the new head of Ally Corp, it is really my opinion that matters. Now, our Corp security has launched an investigation, and they have come up empty. They have determined that my father took his own life. And I tell you this again now. My father would never take his own life. I feel like I am being lied to. I'm being lied to by my own board of directors. I am being lied to by my own security. And I will get to the truth. And that is where the two of you come in. Samantha looks at you first, Mavis, and she says, Miss Theodore, your reputation as a thief precedes you. Unfortunately, so does your reputation for biting off more than you can chew. You've pulled off some very impressive jobs in your short career, but maybe trying to rob one of our corporations directly was not
Mm-hmm.
the best thing you could have done. Now, the way I see it, you owe us. And I'm calling in
No.
your debt today. You get to the bottom of my father's death, and all will be forgiven. Now Samantha then turns to you, Edward. Mr. Black, you have some highly experimental subdermal armor. And while you may believe that you have been off the grid, while many corps would like to dig into what makes you so unique, you're not off the grid. We've known where you've been for some time. And today, I'm calling in that marker as well. I don't want to do you harm, Mr. Black. I don't wish you ill will. But I want my father's death to be resolved for the murder that I feel it was. So here's what I am proposing to this evening. You and Miss Theodore will help me uncover the truth that my own corporation seems to want to keep from me. Miss Theodore, in return, your debts to us will be absolved. And Mr. Black, no one need ever know that Ally Corp knows where you are. And just to sweeten the pie, there will be a healthy remuneration for both of you when this has been resolved. So, this may sound like a request, and I'm a fair woman, but I will tell you, I will not accept no for an answer. As Samantha's done giving her speech, a security guard from her entourage leaves the room for a couple of moments. About 5 minutes later, he returns, walks around the table, and whispers something into her ear. She then looks at Julian and she says, well, this will be a good learning experience this evening after all. She stands up from the table. Julian stands up with her. She looks at the two of you and she asks you to please join her outside in front of the bar.
Okay.
So she starts walking at the head of her entourage. Her security flanks her and Julian on both sides. And the assumption is that the two of you will be coming outside with her. She wants to show you how serious she is.
Mm-hmm.
So do you follow her?
Well, duh.
Now, as you walk outside the bar, you round the corner and you see a group of well-armed security guards standing across from this individual who's pacing back and forth in front of the wall that they now have him cornered against. This individual appears to be in his mid to late 20s, very sketchy in his demeanor. He's very twitchy and, just really looks like he's panicky. He's wearing what can only be described as mechanical overalls, and he's puffing frantically on a cigarette. As you get closer, you hear this guy continuously proclaiming, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it, it's a trap, I knew it, I knew I shouldn't have come here, it's a trap, it's a trap. Don't ever trust the corpse, damn corpse, it's a trap, it's a trap. Now, as Samantha gets closer, this guy stops dead in the middle of his pacing, turns around and looks at her, and you hear her proclaim, Edward, please come and witness what I'd like to discuss with Thomas. Samantha looks at Thomas. And she says, "Now, Mora, I can only forgive so many sins. You tried to steal from us. You tried to expose our secrets. My father, being the generous man that he was, forgave you those sins. Not only did he forgive you those sins, he gave you a roof over your head and a steady paycheck, with the understanding that you were indebted to us. We would feed you, we would clothe you, we would feed your obvious addictions. And all you had to do was be there to do the jobs we asked you to complete. Did I not ask you to be here 35 minutes ago? Did I not tell you that this was not the evening to toy with me, Thomas?" He looks at her, he goes, yeah, but I don't want to hear your excuses, Thomas. There are no buts this evening other than the butt of your cigarette that you were about to put out. Mora stops dead in his tracks. He looks at the almost completely smoked cigarette in his hand. He takes one more quick drag off of it, and then he drops it into the fresh snow laying on the ground in front of this bar. He takes his foot, he snuffs out the cigarette, he looks at Samantha, and he says, "Miss Bell, I'm sorry." She looks at him, she says, "Yes, Thomas, you truly are sorry." She turns around, she looks at Julian, and she says, "Brother, Thomas's contract with us is at an end." And she walks away from him with her back turned. Two security guards flank her as she walks away. Two more guards take up sides around her brother Julian. Julian turns to one of the guards. He extends his hand. The guard hands him a pistol. Julian looks at Thomas and says, "Drop dead, asshole." Pop! One shot. Thomas Mora takes it right to the center of his head and falls dead into the snow. As the blood starts to pool out of his body into the fresh snow, the pure white suddenly turns a reddish color. Samantha turns around. She looks at the two of you. She says, "I'm a fair woman, but I can only forgive so many sins. My brother will furnish you with all of the information you need to begin the investigation into my father's death. Be aware that my father was extremely old-fashioned in his thinking. My brother will provide you with my father's paper agenda, because in a digital world, my father insisted that all corporate documents be provided to him in paper format. My brother will also provide you with access to my father's digital login, so that you can view his digital agenda as well. Be aware that in my father's agenda, you will see that he supposedly had a meeting on the day of his death. That is the only time my father ever used his data jack, is when he was attending meetings. I can tell you firsthand that my father did not have any scheduled meetings on that Saturday morning. His agenda says that he did. His data jack says that he did. I will tell you he did not. So my father shooting himself while connected to a data terminal is highly suspicious. My brother will also provide you with access to our corporate transmat terminal so that you can travel around this planet quickly. Because let me be very clear here. Time is of the essence. And I want this resolved sooner than later. In the meantime, Julian will be your primary point of contact from this point onwards. I look forward to seeing the results you present me with, Mr. Black and Miss Theodore. I bid you both a good evening. And with that, Samantha makes her exit flanked by two of her security guards. Now, Julian waits until she leaves. He again extends his hand to one of the security guards. That security guard reaches into his coat pocket and pulls out a book. He hands it to Julian. Julian then thrusts it towards Edward Black. And Edward, you take the agenda, okay? Julian looks at you and he says, "This is my father's paper agenda." Let me be very clear about two things for both of you right now. My sister is too sentimental for her own good. I view your involvement in this as a waste of corporate resources. As far as I'm concerned, Chikar Bao was a tired old man whose time had ran its course. And when he realized that there was nothing more he could contribute to this world, he did the only honorable thing and removed himself from it. But while my sister is in charge of our corporation, I will honor her wishes and help facilitate your investigation. But I heed you to pay close attention to this. While you may have been granted access to my father's data terminal and his records, our security will be watching the two of you to ensure that neither of you oversteps your bounds, lest you share the same fate as that sorry sack of shit bleeding out in the snow behind you. Here's an access code to our transmat terminal as well. Try not to use it too frequently, because let's be honest, you're costing us money. Reach out to me.
You invited us, so
Reach out to me when you have something to disclose. I anticipate it will not take you long to realize that this is just a suicide and nothing more.
Whatever you say, Julie. See you later.
And with that, Julian and the remaining two guards are on their way. They're gone. Now,
Bye-bye, Julie.
to establish, I want to establish a fact here right now for the two of you as well. You've heard them refer to transmat terminals. Think of the transmat terminal as a transporter from Star Trek, except the way these work, they are only made available to high-ranking corp officials, okay? So they are on corp premises. You are literally uploaded to a network of satellites. Your digital information is transferred between these satellites so that you can be moved quickly around the globe. If you are not a corp employee, or more specifically a high-ranking corp employee, then you, like the rest of the grunts of the human population, are stuck having to rely on old-fashioned means of transportation. Um, Air travel, boats, planes, automobiles. This network of digital transportation is usually only afforded to the rich and powerful.
Hey, I
So,
know a great sushi place in Japan. Let's go.
so,
Ew, I don't like sushi. Mm-mm.
so with
You go
that,
alone.
Oh, you
so with that,
monster.
with that, you
Mm.
guys now hold in your hands Shakar Bow's paper agenda, because again, Shakar was an old-fashioned type of individual. Um,
Well, let's look through the agenda. Let's see what we got.
okay, so who's looking through this
Yep.
agenda?
Well,
Right,
it's
right,
probably
right,
not.
right now you're holding it, so the question becomes: are you looking through it, or are you having the thief go combing through it?
I mean, my clever's only 2. Thief's clever is probably 3. So I mean, give it to the thief.
Oh
All
no,
right.
my clever is 2.
Ah, okay.
Well,
My sneaky is 3.
What's your careful?
Careful is 2.
Yeah, I'll let you do it because you're more like suited to this. So
okay. So
I'm
Mavis,
muscle, man. Here, take this.
so
Read it.
Mavis, you're now
Yep.
holding the agenda in your hand. Um,
Mm.
Two things can be determined from looking at this agenda. Number one,
Okay.
um, Shakar Bell should have been a doctor because his handwriting is atrocious. Okay. And number two,
Okay.
what you can make out of his handwriting, he didn't like to work within the lines. He was a kind of work outside the box kind of guy, because when you look at this agenda, it's like scribbled notes, running horizontally, vertically, like all over every page. It almost feels like an undecipherable mess. Now, you know that this guy somehow died 2 weeks ago, this past Saturday. You
Mm-hmm.
also know that according to his daughter, he did not have any scheduled meetings that day, which is the only time he would ever use his data terminal was to jack in for meetings. But both the agenda and his digital agenda suggests that he in fact did have a meeting that day. So you're gonna have to determine where you want to start with combing the physical agenda that you now hold in your hand. What do you?
Meanwhile, let's go while she's going to be going through the agenda. Let's go to the scene of the crime. We can make our way to the transmat and while going through the agenda.
Yeah,
So
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So as you're making your way to the transmat, Mavis is combing the agenda. Mavis, give me a clever roll, please.
Oops. Okay. Clever roll. So I got a 1. So it's 3. Total of 3.
Okay.
Yep.
It took you about 15 minutes of combing through Chikarbel's chicken scratch. And then,
Mhm.
about 2 days before his death, you see something scribbled into one corner of the agenda for the Thursday just leading up to his death. It is a 7-digit number written
Mhm.
written under the name. Give me 1 second here. Written under the name of Digicom. Now, both of you will recognize Digicom immediately. Digicom is one of the 7 megacorps still in existence, and their primary role at Digicom is that of cyber digital security. Okay? The 7-digit number, Mavis, you will recognize it immediately as looking like a bank account number, a corporate bank account number. Now, what really stands out to you is you see Digicom, a 7-digit number written under it that you recognize as being a corporate bank account number because God knows you've robbed enough of them. Okay? And the big standout for you is directly written next to that information is a giant question mark. Okay? You also get the impression from the way that that question mark was written that there was a very strong emotion attached to it because that question mark has kind of been ground right into the page of that that agenda, almost so much that it looks like if the person writing it had pushed any harder, they would have punctured a hole right into that page. So at this point, you have the name of a corporation that you may want to check out, a bank account number, and you also have this very forcefully written question mark. So you know that you do need to investigate this further. One choice for the two of you would be to pay Digicom an in-person visit, or
They're not going to answer anything. You know that.
Yeah, or another
Well, we need a
choice.
computer terminal
Wow,
to
another
hack our
choice.
system.
Well, someone might have one because another option would be to maybe consider taking a backdoor into Digicom.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Fine.
Well, I found the information. Well, a lead.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You dig.
Okay.
Obviously, you're going to need the hacker to do this, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Fine. Well, if we're going to do it, let's do it from a
Computer
terminal that
terminal. So where do we
but
get
not
one of
just
those?
any computer terminal. We got to make sure that we cover our tracks. So,
Yeah.
all right. Okay. Well, let's go to the scene of the crime. Because if we use that jack, that might be an option. That way we can investigate the jack to, make sure that the jack is clean and legit, as
Hmm.
well as use that jack to hack into wherever we need to hack for information.
Okay, that's fair. You can
Yep.
definitely do that.
Okay.
Okay, so
Transmit time.
Let's
yeah,
Pew.
so
let's
the
hack it.
Okay, so you guys make your way to a corporate transmat terminal so that you can start by visiting the scene of the crime in Sydney, Australia. Now, you will need to contact Julian to arrange access to that penthouse suite.